Welcome to Wales Tech Week 2021. Thank you to our partners. Enjoy the session.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our session. My name is Tashi. I'm the stakeholder relationship manager at the centre, and I work closely with industries and academics to address real-world challenges and drive the projects. I'm very pleased that we have a panel of stakeholders who we work with. So just to give you a preview of the session today, I'll be doing in first half of the centre overview, and then we'll go into the panel discussion for about 28 or half an hour, 28 minutes to half an hour rather. And then I'll finish the second part of the overview and then followed by up to 10-15 minutes Q&A. When you have questions, please use the comments box to ask questions during the session, and we'll pick it up at the end. So thank you again for joining us. This session is about how academic research working with industry and stakeholders address real-world problems. Before I start, I will do a round of quick intros with my panelists, starting with David.
Hi everyone, thanks Tashi. I'm David Sullivan. I'm the lead data scientist at Starling Bank, based out of our Cardiff office, working on a range of data science problems and working with Tashi as well on some exciting projects at the centre. Great to be here today.
Great. And Izzy, please.
Hi, Tashi. Thank you, Tashi. I'm Izzy Sargent. I work at Ordnance Survey, where we make maps in the research team. So that means working alongside people within the organisation who are innovating from research, but also working with academics outside of the organisation.
Wonderful. Darren.
Hi there, I'm Darren Wallace. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for CDSM Interactive Solutions based in Swansea. We build a learning platform called Thinky, which is the technology that drives the Hub project here in Wales. We're working with Tashi and the team to research some novel machine learning techniques to support new models of assessment in EdTech.
And finally, John.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is John Frankish. I'm the head of digital transformation and business changes at Bevan University Health Board down in South East Wales. I work in a service that's dedicated, obviously, to providing informatics support to clinicians in terms of their health record to support effective clinical decision making. So we're really interested in how we collect, curate, and present information to our clinicians in order to support them in their work every day.
Fantastic. We do have a fifth panelist, as you saw on the program, Laura Baker from Tata Steel. She's currently having some technical difficulties, but as soon as that's sorted, I'm sure she'll join us in the panel. Okay, at this point, I would like to share my slide, please. Thank you very much. Right. Could we put it on a presentation mode, please? Okay, maybe we can't. Okay, we'll continue with that mode. Okay, so as you heard from a range of stakeholders, we've been working with them closely over, some over a year, some over 2 years, in this mission to really change the world, change the societal challenges, work together to address those real-world problems. If I can go to my next slide. See. Hang on a second. Right, let me see if I can do this. Bear with me. Okay, maybe I'll do this here. Hello, Lisa, can we go to the next slide? Right. Okay. Beg your pardon, just technical issues here. I'll stop sharing now.
I think you're in control, Tashi. So if you go to presenter mode on your machine and go through the slides, it should be sharing your screen. Hopefully you're in control.
Okay. I just clicked on it. Right, I am trying. I'll stop it for a minute. Well, I'll take you through anyway. We'll see if we can share again. So I'm sure Lisa's working in the background. Anyway, so you were in the presenter mode. I think I am, but I still got the issue here. Anyway, we are based at the Computational Foundry, which is now the School of Mathematics and Computer Science at the Bay Campus in Swansea Universities. Our Center for Human-Focused AI Research Center was established just over 2 years ago, with a really clear-cut mission that we really want to change the world by creating new forms of AI technologies with pretty much full human-focused, human-centered approach to really create those technologies which are not just effective, but also address the underbellies of AI world, which is the issues with explainability, inclusivity, transparency, explainability, all those sort of undercurrent issues that we're also going to be addressing while solving the industry-based challenges. Within, let me just try again. I got a message, I beg your pardon. Let's try that again. Okay, you are in the show. Lisa, I'm going to stop share and then share again, see if it works. I beg your pardon. Let's try one more time. Okay. Okay, could we share now, please? I think something worked, but Lisa, if you can hear me, could we go to the next slide, if possible? Could you try? Oh dear. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I keep getting this control slides, I'm afraid. Okay. I thought I had a backup slides with you. If it's possible to share that too, Lisa. Anyway, if not, that doesn't matter. We'll skip this part for now, and I'll go straight to the panel discussion. So as you were hearing from our stakeholder community, it really is about working closely with the stakeholders, working with societal challenges to address the AI issues. All these colleagues that you see on the panel have brought challenges with us to work on. So I'll go straight to Darren first. Darren, can you please tell us about how you got in contact with Swansea University, first of all? I think there was an email from Dan somehow, and then we got into talking, and then also talk about the challenges that you brought to us. You're on mute, Darren.
There you go. How's that?
Very good.
Yeah, we're dealing with quite large populations of teachers and students, and we deal with a lot of data. And obviously, it's very important when you're running large national projects that data is accurately reported. And we first reached out to the centre, really looking for expertise in data science, data analytics, and things of that sort. And that's how we first got talking to you guys. And then we became very interested in the fact that you have that human-centered focus in terms of your AI research, which is imperative for us. We provide learning tools for teachers and students across all age ranges. And while there are some very well-trodden machine learning models that you can take off the shelf, as it were, to do things like natural language processing or computer vision and things of that sort, and it can be very useful. If you want to get into the heart of the teaching and learning practice, you have to do it in such a way that you don't exclude the skills of the practitioner and you don't exclude the needs of the learner. It's imperative that we develop tools that keep those stakeholders at the center of our consideration. So that's how we got in touch with you guys, and that's why we found our interaction today to be so fruitful.
Fantastic. So let's go a little bit deeper into that. So the project that we are doing with you, it's about the assessment on e-learnings. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're looking at developing tools to support comparative judgment, which is a fundamentally different assessment model. It's relatively new in terms of online and e-learning, and at its heart is rather than making quantitative judgments while assessment and following rubrics, its aim is to really lighten the cognitive load on the practitioner while they're doing the assessment. What we want to do is develop machine learning algorithms to support that process, both to interpret the judgments of a range of practitioners, if you like, crowdsourcing expertise from all the teachers and the practitioners that we deal with, and to try to provide then predictive models that help them rank the pieces of work that they're assessing. Again, in a way that doesn't exclude them from the process. It's very much a support tool, and we want to do it in such a way that the tool is of course, needs to be credible. It needs to be genuinely valuable to both the practitioners and the students, and it needs to be seen as valuable and trustworthy. So the ethics of how we introduce the tool and that broader context is very important to us, beyond just developing some fancy new functions and reporting technology. Does that help?
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you very much. Now, I've just been told that our slides are ready again, but I'll give it a minute and go straight to John in the health and well-being context within which we address the issues. John, completely different challenge with you in Bevan University Health Board, especially with the sepsis transmission predictions. So tell us about the challenges that we're working with you.
Yeah, it's a very different item, isn't it? I mean, we first got in contact with Swansea University, I think, on this occasion through the Life Sciences Hub in Wales, which is there to create links between health and social care and academic and industry bodies. So it's a really exciting opportunity for us to start to be brought together in this way and actually talk about this within a Wales Tech Week environment as well. Yeah, sepsis is a different kind of challenge for us. People are not quite sure what sepsis is. It's a medical emergency where the body has this overwhelming response to infection that can lead to all sorts of problems if not treated early, multi organ failure and potentially death. And again, is critical for us because it's a leading cause of mortality, death in our hospitals if we don't get on with it. Now, this has been an issue that we've been trying to manage for quite a long period of time, and we've been driving on paper-based methodologies for trying to capture the early signs and respond to those. And essentially, we do that by measuring your temperature, your pulse, your blood pressure, and a variety of other bits and pieces, and capturing those and scoring those, which gives a kind of risk indicator. We're moving from paper-based mechanisms now to capturing that digitally. And what that means is we have a very large database of information about our patients. And the opportunity, we're literally just at the start, was very exciting to start looking at that with Swansea University and Computational Foundry to look, see if we can see any early indicators in that data that might give us an earlier view and a perhaps more reliable view about whether somebody is likely to develop sepsis, so we can focus and manage that patient better and earlier in the pathway and avoid that really unnecessary care and treatment that comes from a delayed reaction and the impact that can have on the patient. And of course there is also the hospital that then are consumed in trying to manage something that we could actually get ahead of early in the pathway.
Amazing. That's great to hear, John. Let's switch to David. In the fintech world, there are a few sort of challenger banks, obviously established banks as well, all with sort of trying to address different problems. But it's always not about what you do. It's always about why you do it. And in that respect, I really would love to know, David, this algorithmic bias thing that you wanted to explore. Tell us why. And how's that going with Swansea University?
Yeah, sure. So just kind of originally on how we approached the centre in Swansea University. So Anne Bowden, our CEO and founder, is a Swansea University alumni. So we were keen to build on those bridges and form a partnership with Swansea University and the centre, the Computational Foundry, to do some really exciting and interesting research in the space of explainable and fair machine learning and AI, especially in the context of finance. And kind of one of the big motivating factors here is our ethics statement, which is on our website, is all about doing technology for good. And we pledge that everything we do with technology and machine learning and AI is transparent and fair, and that we do not introduce any bias into any of the algorithms we use or any of the models we use here at the bank. And so this is the main kind of motivating factor behind everything we do and everything we try and build. That's kind of at the core of what we're thinking of. So yeah, it was kind of an exciting opportunity to explore that with the centre, specifically around potentially unsupervised methods, because obviously we are all well-intentioned as humans at the bank and we all want to do the right thing, but we know that in the past mistakes have been made with data and these kinds of algorithms that come to haunt us in the present, things like data bias and discrimination and things like that. So whilst we're as well-intentioned as possible, we're aware that we can't catch everything, and we want to kind of prepare ourselves and be more proactive about spotting those risks. So that's really kind of at the heart of the work we're doing with the Foundry.
Wonderful. And lastly, to Izzy, you guys have a very sort of long-lasting working relationship with academia. And of course, you obviously came to us because of the sort of human in the loop approach that we specialize in. But more than that, can you please tell us what sort of data-driven issues that you have that you want to address with us?
Well, we're in one of those really happy places where we have a lot of data. So we fly imagery for the whole of Britain. We're also working to a certain level with satellite data, and we have some research innovation with ground-based image capture approaches. So we've got data streams coming in. Some people describe it a little bit like a fire hose. And we've also been working, applying different machine learning approaches to this for a while. A lot of that is still within the research innovation space, but we can really now see that moving into our day-to-day processes. That needs to happen, but it's on its way there, which is great. But right now we don't really have the human experts within that machine learning process, and so we came to you with the need to kind of looking into the future, to thinking much more about how we make sure that expertise remains within our process. We have a lot of internal experts who are really good at interpreting image data in particular, but also thinking about things like the customer as the expert. They're the expert in their problem. How do we bring them in? And also when we've trained networks, and we train them in supervised approaches and with unsupervised approaches, how do we understand what the models have learned? And can we use different sorts of experts to understand what the models learned, to tell us whether that's meaningful, and maybe kind of produce ways of comparing different models for their value and their usefulness, moving sort of further on into the process.
That's great. Thank you, Izzy. One thing I really like about the Ordnance survey is they really are about, their vision aligns with ours in that we are about celebrating human experience. We are about amplifying that sort of human capability, and in this sort of a not human in the loop, but human-centered way of doing things with Ordnance survey, hopefully we'll have great results. Because Laura couldn't join us, I'll say a little bit about Tata and how we work as well. Obviously, Tata has years and years of working a relationship with Swansea University, especially with our centre. They've been on board a great supporter of the centre. The issue we were going to discuss today about their project is about how exploiting AI and computer vision techniques to detect defects in steel manufacturing process. And that's an incredible project that we're currently working on, and our student is doing extremely well. I'll come back to the sort of the other part of the Q&A later on, the panel discussion rather. Let's give that slides one more try. So Lisa, let's try that. Oh, wonderful, it's working. Look at that. Could we go to the next slide, please? Next one again. That's it. Thank you, Lisa. I'm very pleased it's working. Just a little bit about Swansea University. We are one of the leaders in research, innovation, and student experience at universities throughout the UK, not just in Wales. Next, please. And especially within the computer science in the computational foundry, we really are leading in the areas of human-computer interaction. That is the sort of the study of the relationship between human and computer, how we interact, how we empower users, and AI and machine learning in computer science as well. Next slide, please. And this is what I was trying to articulate earlier. Without the slides, I was failing miserably. If you look at the little diagram there, that really is the blueprint of our existence. We, as I keep saying, we here with a really big mission to make the world a better place by creating new forms of AI, not with the science first approach, but really with the problem first approach. What we mean by this is we don't create AI for the sake of creating AI or applying AI technology at different sectors just like that. We really start with the problem, with the community, with a network of industries to really get into the issues, real world challenges that they are facing. Only then we look at the sort of what sort of technology we can use in a very sort of a human-centered way, where industry people, domain experts, they all start with us from the day one, not in the middle, not at the end. Literally iterate with them, feedback with them to produce something that is effective and as well as addressing the larger AI issues. And the other key thing I wanted to stress is, there are lots and lots of CDTs or doctoral training centers dotted around the country. The unique thing about us is that we absolutely work very closely with industry and stakeholders who will then shape the PhD title, shape the PhD topics, really do real world research that will have academic excellence as well as real world impact. And that really is what drives us. And as you heard from people like Darren and John and David and Izzy, we are empowered when industry come on board. They bring their research, they bring their energy that also enliven us. Next slide, please. Yes. So these are the only small number of people here, but we do have in the year one, we're very grateful for the big players like UK Hydrographic Office, who's part of the MOD, that really are pushing our computer vision expertise to help their autonomous vessels. Tata, as I mentioned earlier, and also NHS Wales in sort of looking at how a human-based approach can help the decision support mechanism. And a small sort of amicus, small pharma company called Amicus, really helping to exploit what human-centered design can do to reduce, prevent the rare diseases in the real world. Next slide, please. And with the cohort 2, which just finished now, we're very grateful to the following stakeholders who've invested their research, trust, and energy with us. Only the highlighted ones have been successful with getting the students. As you will hear later, from Starling Bank and the CDSM later on, what they learned working with us and what benefits that these dynamic working relationship will have to their companies as a whole. So what, as you can see here, is how we have projects here is not based on who you are, but the nature of the problem that you bring to us. So we really are open to any SMEs, any companies, any startups based in Wales, based in all over the UK, to if you have that sort of a headache, that challenge, that issue, come to us. We'll work on this. We'll work together. We'll solve it through a very dynamic PhD research. Thank you. Next slide, please. As I was saying, although we have the whole AI and machine learning as the core capability within the Foundry, but it's pretty much driven through the human-computer interactions, where, as I was saying, you can't simply build something that will be successful or adopted. It's got to have that human experience. It's got to have that human-computer interaction approaches to ensure users, experts are involved from the very beginning to make sure what we build is built together, we test together. When it's ready, it'll be hopefully be a better chance of adopting as well. Next slide, please. We also have within the Foundry a big security research group. As you can now imagine these days, security is no longer a standalone sort of expertise or subjects. It really is embedded in many things that we do. We also have our engineering cousins working on the sort of very sort of dynamic, trendy sensor technologies to make sure informations are obtained, analyzed, and benefit the whole working of the processes in a smart manufacturing domain. Next slide, please. And lastly, here is the expertise on the actual AI and big data expertise we have. We are huge in image recognition, deep learning, as well as data science, visualization, and the important NLP, natural language processing, with human-computer interaction approach. Next slide, please. I think that's probably the end of my first part. So I'll stop sharing, please, Lisa. Thank you very much for a second. Yeah, there we are, back to it. So so that's the first part. So I'll dive straight back into the discussions. So David, you talked about how it's important is that you understand and implement right sort of algorithmic bias into your models. So can you tell us a little bit about what was the journey like for you? So the first time you came to us and we went through a few meetings and discussions, how was that journey with us? How was that co-creating sort of experience felt for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think from the get-go, really, it was quite clear that there was kind of a big wealth of expertise available at the centre. So from the initial kind of project scoping meetings, where we had quite a large call with several members of faculty from the centre, and we discussed what we were hoping to achieve, the problems we were hoping to solve. And it was actually great to have that wide range of expertise all in the same call, because everybody was able to kind of come in and say, what part of their background aligned well with the problem and how they might want to tackle it, and some of the key areas for them in tackling the problem. So that was actually really helpful for us in understanding what's required to do what we want to do. Right? As a business, obviously, we have some business aims and goals that we hope are very closely aligned with what the centre are doing. But it was quite an eye-opening moment for us to be like, okay, actually, we haven't thought about X, Y, or Z, and we need to understand the prerequisites a bit more. So those initial kind of project scoping meetings were really useful for us, and has actually allowed us to align a lot of the work that's happening within Starling, within engineering at Starling and data science, and a lot of our processes around the conversations we've had with the centre, so that we are already putting into place best practices around how we do explainability and fairness with machine learning, and we're trying to structure the way we do that so that we're already in a good place to kind of take on the output of this project and the output of the PhD and make the most of it. So yeah, I think, even though it's quite early days, we've already learned quite a lot from our engagement with the faculty at the centre.
That's great to hear, David. Back to John. John, in this process, long-driven process of shaping that challenge into a fulfilling PhD research, we had lots of meetings, also including your clinicians as well.
Yeah.
So please tell us how did they see that? How did they sort of see the process, and where we ended up having a very good project scope?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a real heuristic process, hasn't it, for us? An opportunity has been created for a space in which we can come together and discuss things. And I mean, for me, it's a meeting up of minds on both ends, really. It's delightful that Swansea has got the interest in human computer interaction. It's got a professor who's already got an interest in sepsis already and has done work on that one, and has got the right program for us actually in terms of how we explore that. On our side, we've actually got people who are not just looking at this from our organisational perspective, but actually have a national remit in sepsis, for example, in Wales, and have also got an interest as well in terms of AI, machine learning, in terms of other bits and pieces. And it would be fair to say that for us in healthcare, we're at the beginning of a journey in this particular space. We're really been principally looking at providing information, curating information to support clinical decision making, and obviously we're working in a very sensitive. I think we all are. I'm sorry, one shouldn't assume, but you're talking about information that's affecting decisions which actually have real life consequences in terms of treatment. So this is not something you're going to rush into. And I have a message from a colleague in Bevan, who's a professor of medicine, who's sitting there saying, "Well, John, you've got to remember that no one's really done anything in this space and actually put it into play in terms of AI and machine learning in a clinical space anywhere effectively." And he's commenting on other programs of research. So this is actually ideal for us. Working that out, we're an Aneurin Bevan. We're a health board in Southeast Wales. We're not Imperial College, and we're not Imperial Hospitals in that kind of relationship. But actually, the ability for us to sit down and have a dialogue with Swansea and find a student way. This is a real opportunity for us to learn our way into it. We have a pressing need. There's a real issue around this, but it's a space we've got to learn. And for us, the fact that we've had a dialogue and have got to a point where we understand where we stand on this together is actually meaning we've got a real project winner, I think, in terms of how it goes forward now for the next 3 years or so, 3 to 4 years. I've got the MSc starting now. So it's been a really effective conversation in terms of we weren't quite sure where it started. Did you want to talk about sepsis? Do you want to talk about sepsis and patient flow? Now let's focus on where we think we've got strength, where we've got real data, and where we've got the opportunity of combining that with all sorts of other things, which also Swansea may just happen in its back pocket in terms of its SAIL database, for example. So it's a really interesting space for us to start to generate ideas and learn together, actually, I think.
That's really good to hear, John. Izzy, what did you get out of the process where we had not just the sort of academic and industry sort of stakeholder chatting, but also you gave some talks to the students, the PhD students, then you also helped interview the students. So tell us about your journey there.
It was quite a journey too. I think when we first came with the idea, we were talking as much about the data and other ways of processing the data to better label it or to better understand it, but there was also this kind of human expertise aspect to it. And the more we discussed, the more it seemed that the human expertise was actually something that we hadn't explored enough and that really needed to be developed more. I particularly enjoyed discussing with the students and their ideas and their different perspectives and the sort of fresh ideas that they brought, obviously from courses that they'd recently done. That was always good fun. And talking with academics about their different areas of interest, but kind of then honing in on this point that we need to really start to integrate expertise within our data labeling process for loads of different really, really good reasons that we hadn't actually identified in the first instance.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. Darren, in your the supervisory team that you have with us, you have an outstanding student and 3 academics working with you. And one of them is Professor Tom Crick, who comes from education, who's got fantastic links with the Welsh government. So tell us, it's not just a project that you're addressing, but also sort of making that connection at a very high level as well. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've worked in public sector education for some time now, and as I say, our Thinky product is the software behind the Hub project, which is delivered to every student and teacher in Wales. Now, that was a very bold project when it was initiated. I think it was one of the first national rollouts of a learning platform technology in the world. And that's allowed us to go on to places like Egypt, and we now serve every teacher and student in Egypt with over 20 million users. Now, Tom comes from that world where he understands the concerns and the context of working with at the government level. So quite often, from a background as selling software services, you might be dealing with an individual university or an individual school. Working at a national level and understanding the broader context and concerns of those national projects is incredibly important to us. Now, our work with Tom is allowing us to really add that extra dimension of understanding of working in the public sector, and it'll be critical to us as we move forward with pilot studies and focus groups and things of that sort. And as we start working with groups of students and teachers in Wales or in other territories, that we have that complete understanding of our background and the context within which we work. So that was incredibly valuable to us, that there was no catching up to do there. He comes from our world, as it were, and we come from his world, and it was very, very useful for us.
Great. That's really good to hear. So, working with us, it's about addressing real world challenges that will have a good benefit for your organization, that can be perhaps scaled up, that can be implemented in your products and services. So I want to know from you guys now. So you partnered with us, you've scoped a project with us. Now tell us, what will you benefit from this 3 years of research? What do you aim to get out of this partnership? I'll go with Izzy first.
I think in the first instance, with all of our PhDs, one of the first things that we get out quite quickly is learning. So we learn as the student learns. It can be as simple as reading their literature review, but usually it's a lot more fun kind of interacting with them as they're learning about the topic. And that's just a fantastic way to bring that knowledge in. And then later on, if we do this right, we'll have sort of stages where we got things that we can demonstrate within the organisation, and pass that learning then into the organisation. I think it's really important, as far as we're concerned, not to expect a finalised product at the end of this, because it's actually 3.5 years is a terribly short time. But yeah, it's probably more about the knowledge transfer.
Great. Back to you, excuse me, David. So the benefit you gain from the 3-year research is obviously not just for Starling Bank. I imagine it will be for the entire challenger banks, the fintech community, and not just even in the fintech community, to the overall banking sector. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, kind of as all industries, not just finance, we're all looking to AI and machine learning to make more of our decisions for us. And I think with that comes kind of a monumental challenge of how do we make sure that we're using it in a fair, ethical way, and that we can explain what it's doing, right? I think the age of black box machine learning is over, and nobody will really kind of sit back and accept now that, oh, well, it's just a black box, we trust what it does. And so I think, not just in finance, at Starling, we're hoping to be very proactive about this usage, but not just set the bar in finance, but hopefully across the industry. And, our head of data science, Harriet Rees, is engaged in a public-private forum with the FCA, the regulator, and the Aneurin Institute, where we're talking about these very topics and questions. And for us, it's very much not about, we don't want to just kind of do what the regulator says we have to do and react to the regulator's decisions. We want to be very proactive about making sure that we're ahead of the curve in terms of development and use of machine learning in finance, and really set the bar for how we think this should be done, and crucially how it should benefit our customers. At the end of the day, we want, our customers are the owners of their own data. We want to empower their financial decisions, so we want to put them back in control of the decision making, and that to do that, it's critical that they understand why the decisions were made. But just to kind of really echo Izzy's point, a PhD, it is a training program first and foremost, right? And it's a research-driven training program. So we're very much aware that you're not expecting some just kind of final product at the end, but it's a journey and it's a learning journey for all of us. So we're really trying to hope to understand the current state of the art. There's lots of open source tooling available into this space, but how we may be able to build upon that and make it to the benefit of our customers and generally the rest of the financial sector and others.
Thank you, David. That's most wonderful. I got my eye on the time. We've got 20 minutes left, so I'll wrap this up very quickly, and I'll ask each of my panelists to give me 10-second answer to my quick questions. Darren, what would you say or advise to any SMEs out there who would like to collaborate with any academic research?
Well, I would only encourage it. I think it's even though we're at the very start of the journey, it's already proven incredibly fruitful for us, and we think that we've got a very exciting 3 years ahead of us. Great,
John. Same question.
Yeah, I agree with Darren. I think you've got to go for it. I think it's about being clear about what you think the question is, but being clear that you've got to. Well, you might think you know what the question is, but you've got to have a dialogue in which to understand that from both sides, and and that's about understanding where you are right now as an organisation, as well as understanding what might be out there. And I think it's that initial engagement is really, really important here, and that was what was so good about Swansea, no question.
Thank you. Another question to Izzy and David. Any keen academics, researcher, got some amazing idea and wants to, collaborate with you, how should they get in touch with you? How should they do this with you? 10 seconds, David.
Yeah, just jump on our website. Hopefully you can grab our email address. We're always very open in data science to new ideas and anybody who wants to work with us, so just get in touch.
And how can they do that with Ordnance Survey, Izzy?
Exactly that. Make it interesting. Don't worry about trying to make it sound commercial. Just, talk about something that's 5 years, 10 years in the future. That'd be great.
Great, fantastic. Okay, at this point, Lisa, I would like to jump back to the slide. Next slide, please. I'll cover the last bit of the CDTs. So the PhD research that my panelists were talking about is this. They come on a 4-year program. In year 1, they do a taught MSc program for a year, within which I bring the academics and stakeholders' problems, and they are exposed to that, and they interact with them, and they get allocated projects. And from October onwards, the PhD starts for that student. Next slide, please. And as you were saying, the journey that we go through is literally this. We'd love to hear from you, first of all. When you get in contact with us, we'll get back to you. We'll work with you to understand what the challenges are. You don't have to know what it is, because as you can see through this process, we will work with you to get to the bottom of the challenges and how that can be delivered through group workshops or sandpits, we call them, where we invite the stakeholders to meet the PhD students and academics. And once we know what we want to do are captured in this PhD brief, it is then reviewed by the management board to make sure it's scientifically rigorous, and it ticks all the boxes in terms of human-centeredness. And you interview students, and you sign the studentship agreement, and off you go. October next year, you will have a student. Hopefully, you will have a student to start that PhD journey with. Next slide, please. So the good news, folks, those who are listening, those who wish to collaborate with us, the cohort 3 cycle has just started. So we've given 11 places to outstanding students. They're joining us in September. They'll take 1 year master's course, within which we sort of work and reshape your research challenges into a fulfilling PhD brief. And then as years goes on, early next year, you get to meet students. And as I was just saying, you interview them, and then we sign the studentship agreement and we start the project in October 2022. Next slide, please, which is the key slides, really, for those who wish to work with us, because we are EPSRC funded program. 75% of the PhD cost is already covered by the government through RC UK. What we seek from industry partners and stakeholders is that 25% of the cost, which comes to 37.5k for the entire PhD duration. We also ask additional 5k if the project, involves a lot of data churning or building some major prototype. All of these items are returned back to you. So, that investment is only for yourself. If you have many challenges, yes, you can sponsor more than one student. And we are very much cost conscious that, you can pay all up front or in annual installments, as well as, and I know that SMEs can also sort of have their research costs back from the HMRC as well. Now, I know a lot of people will be thinking, how does this IP, position happen at the center? We are very much driven by the Lambeth Toolkit Agreement, which is devised by the government through the RC UK. What it really states is, especially on the 4A agreement, is that when we work together on this journey, from this research journey, our academics and students must be able to publish. Of course, they'll seek your permission to publish. They'll make sure the sensitive data are protected, but we'll publish and publish with you, and also use the case studies for teaching and stuff. On the other side, if something amazing comes out of the PhD, yes, as a stakeholder, you can have the license, exclusive license even, to go commercialize it in return for a small royalty back to the university. So as you can imagine, it is fundamentally heavily subsidized by the government, and you chipping in, you still have a very much a joint ownership on the IP with us. Next slide, please. And I just want to remind our viewers that it's not just the PhD that we do at the Foundry. Of course, the session is about PhD, but there are many more beyond the PhD we do. For example, full-on research that is completed out of the PhD settings. We have lots of master's students every year with no cost. We do provide that for our stakeholders, but if you're keen, you are more than welcome to have a master's project with us. And of course, our PhD students also do side projects. If you have some interesting challenges, you can have that side projects based on your challenges. And of course, it's all about knowledge sharing. As David was saying, we would love to hear from you. Academia also needs to understand what's happening in the real world to enrich their own learning and research. We'd love to hear from you, and we can also have our professors giving talks at your sites as well. Student internship we can do, as well as academic consultancies available. And lastly, it's all about collaboration. We would love to sort of team up with you in big major grants. Some of them are also industry-led projects that we can team up with you as well. And last slide, please. So this is where I will end. This is the lovely picture from inside the Foundry. And here is my name, my email address, mobile number as well. I don't know why I put it there, but the peoplefirst.best is the website. If you click on it, then you'll come to our official website, and there you will find all the relevant information. I'm also on Twitter if you'd like to get in touch. So all I'm saying here is, no matter how big, small or medium your companies, organizations may be, no matter where you are in your AI journey, if you have challenges, if you have strategic research work to do that you want to collaborate with, we are more than happy to say hello to you. We're more than happy to work with you to understand it, to convert that challenge into a deliverable oriented PhD research for you. Long gone are the days where you invest in a PhD and you get to see something at the end of 3 years. With us being the next generation PhD research, we will deliver for you at the end of every year for PhD. Very much like a sort of a disruptive technology builder, very much like a startup mentality that we have at the center. So I would love to hear from you. I'll leave my email address in the comments. So that's the end of my slides. So I'll go back to my colleagues, and I think we have about just over 10 minutes for any Q&As we have. Lisa, how can we see the questions? If there are any, please. Do we have to stop sharing? Okay, I'll stop sharing. Exit full screen. Oh, there we are. Okay. Okay, this a comment from Sheridan. I'm not sure what the question is, but it's talking about the Life Sciences Hub Wales. Interesting. It's proud to see such an exciting appetite for health, academia, industry to work in partnership. This is vital if we are to really support the challenges that health is facing. Thank you, Sheridan. If you have a specific question, please do enter it in the comments. Anybody who may have any other questions, I'm looking at the private chat, there's nothing. So do let us know. So I may as well use the remaining minutes to ask more questions to my panelists. I'll go with Izzy on this. So Isabel, like Tata Steel, your organization has many years of sort of collaborating with academia. Can you let's not just sing praises about how good we are. Let's talk about what are the challenges in working with academia, and with your great experience, how can we look at addressing those challenges, Izzy?
Well, skirting over the legal issues, negotiating contracts. I think there's this slight disparity between in the academic context. We're looking for something that creates novelty, so you can demonstrate novelty, whereas in a more commercial context, you want to show that you've got some kind of return on investment, and it's bringing those two things together and both sides understanding each other's pushes and pulls to actually make the relationship work between the two.
Excellent. And going to Darren, for example, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's your first time collaborating with academia. Is that correct, Darren?
Well, it's the first time that we've sponsored a PhD project. But right. I mean, we've been working in EdTech for over 20 years. So we've collaborated with academia many times in a slightly different context. We've been the service provider selling services into schools, universities, or otherwise. So we know the sector very well, and we've always had a collaborative response. This is the first time, I suppose, the power balance has been maybe shifted a little more in our favor than usual in terms of our ability to direct the research and pursue things that interest us. And return on investment is a very important concern to an SME. And I think that's the big shift for us, is that we obviously do constant research and we develop new products and we extend our product set all the time. But we generally have to prove return on investment very, very quickly. And if we sense that we're not going to do that quickly, quite often we have to put down a line of research and move on. I think that this is an opportunity for us to have a little bit more freedom there and broaden our scope a little more than we would usually be able to within a project environment, certainly, or even in a product development environment. So it's very interesting to us to have a little bit more control over steering the project than we would usually do in a supplier relationship.
That's great to know. John, you mentioned that I and Bevan have previously worked with, is it Imperial or UCL you mentioned?
Cardiff, yeah. I mean, we're a university health board, and the university's in there for a reason, and there's an expectation that obviously we contribute not only to clinical education in terms of our medical nursing and allied health professional staff, but actually that we contribute to learning and building skills within our broader community, which I think is something rather special and rather lovely about being in Wales and having this particular approach within our integrated health board structures. So it's a joy for us to be able to have the support of our organizations to be able to reach out and have those kind of relationships with universities. And previously it's been Cardiff. This is my first opportunity to work with Swansea University, but the match is really very good for us, as I made reference to before, in just terms of particularly about how Swansea has placed itself in terms of that life sciences sector and how that then enables us as well. Now we're just getting into digital transformation, really. It might sound odd, but investment is not something that easily comes to us. So actually, again, I think Darren made the point, return on investment is something that's really tricky for us. But we know that benefit from digital technology takes a long time to come to fruition. So actually, this gives us a really good way of learning together. And I referenced Isabel's comments earlier about what the benefits look like. I think that's absolutely key to this. This is a really constructive, really fruitful way of working and getting into new space, and at a reasonable cost.
Good. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, I think it is. I mean, it's extraordinarily good value, isn't it? Really, when you're trying to generate and build learning. Isabel talked about learning, with the student. That's absolutely going to be the case for us. The student's going to be there, and they're going to be a catalyst for our journey in this, in which we're going to get oodles from it. That is evident already, and that's not just from the student as well. I think it's also comes to the expertise that sits within the computational foundry. I'm very excited about the kind of topological things that people have been chatting about. Seems like an ideal opportunity. I don't really understand it, but it looks like it could be really useful, the kind of data that we're looking at, for example.
Wonderful.
So
I mean,
good fun.
Yeah, exactly. We welcome our collaborative hands to other university health boards in Wales, Swansea Bay, Cwmtaf, and all the others. We would love to hear from you. Quick to David, and I know for sure, David, that Starling Bank, I think it's the first time you've sort of on a research with a university. Tell us a little bit about how do fintech in general sees this academic relationship, working collaboration thing? Is it too early? Is it something we do need to explore, or are you not sure about what you're going to get out of the relationship with us?
It's a good question. I mean, it's difficult to speak for other fintechs. Certainly, the Starling approach is that we're doing banking but different, and we're trying to do banking for better. And we know that as a digital bank, and we are a tech company. We happen to be a tech company that's building a bank, but the culture and the way we operate at Starling is very much we are a tech company. And so, like every other kind of modern day tech company, we have lots of data. We want to be data driven. And so our data science department is essentially a research and development department, right? It's our day-to-day work in data science is not too different from what a PhD student makes. So I can say that because I was fortunate enough to complete a PhD myself a couple of years ago. So I think, it's a very kind of similar environment. And I think, the new kind of digital waves of banks are ideally positioned to really take advantage of these sorts of collaborations. Not just because, as John said, it's very good value, but I think one of the things that really appeals from my side, putting away kind of the return on investment, because at the end of the day, I'm a practicing data scientist. I'm enjoying that. What's really exciting is actually that we get to engage and work with the student and be part of the research rather than just sitting on the sidelines and getting fortnightly updates about what's going on in the project. So I'm actually really looking forward to getting involved and being part of the research and part of the journey rather than just seeing, okay, well, what have you got for us this week? What's come out of it now? So I think that's the real advantage, and the digital banks need to get on top of that.
My PhD student has already just emailed you in the middle of this, by the way. Timing is impeccable. Thank you, Fergus.
Fergus is outstanding.
Yeah.
I hang on now. So we literally have 1 more minute left, and somebody just dropped a question from Richard Miltiadis, if I can pronounce it right. What are some of the challenges of undertaking a PhD in a rapidly developing area Or to what extent can the area of focus be tweaked so it can remain current in light of new breakthrough and developments? A rather long and deep question. Who wants to take that? We literally have 30 seconds.
Not one for health.
Well, I think it's a common problem in software development. There are new tool sets and developments happening all the time. While we would expect that, I'm sure within the course of the PhD, there will be new machine learning tool sets, new techniques, and the broader challenge of how that impacts the humans in the process, I think, will remain relatively steady. So I think you can adapt the tool set while the broader goals remain pretty much solid.
Okay, that's a good answer. We have another question from Az Naji, if I pronounce that correctly. What are your perspectives on addressing ethics-related challenges in AI usage? Thank you. That, I think, goes straight to David in your project.
maybe tricky given the time constraints, but yeah, I think I'll just kind of reiterate the point I made earlier, which I think the days of doing black box machine learning and stakeholders kind of taking it for, just sort of face value is over, really. And stakeholders are a lot more interested in why is it making the decisions it is, and is it ethical, and is it fair? So I think definitely the days of maybe lazy data science are over, and we need to embrace this challenging but exciting area and really, embrace it and make sure we do a good job.
Wonderful. Okay, I think with that, we'll conclude the session. Thank you to Wales Tech Week. Thank you to my panelists. And a special thank you to Wales Innovation Funding, through which I was able to afford some time on this. So thank you to them, and thank you to RISE at Swansea University rather. So anybody out there who wish to know more or wish to get in touch with some ideas, whether it's students, whether it's potential academics, or even stakeholders who wish to work with us, do get in touch. I've put my email address and website on the chat box there. We are always more than happy to meet you and get to know you. So thank you again, everybody. So thank you and goodbye. Cheers.
Thank you for watching. Rewatch all of our sessions online. Thank you to our partners.